Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:06. Nothing to report out of closed session, and we can stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to backtrack. I am going to, we did change the agenda. So just to let you all know that we took off I3 on the agenda. We're going to be removing that and hopefully bringing that back next month. I3.
The state didn't post the stuff to review. So we have to table it. Is there any other on the
That was all we
That's-
did.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I didn't write that down. All right, moving on to Tell Me Something Good time.
Yeah, I wanted to just extend the district's sincere thanks to the Star Foundation for their continued and generous support of the district. At the September meeting of the Star Foundation, Star awarded more than $143,000 in grants to support projects at all 3 district schools. So to just give you an overview, the funds will provide $50,000 for district technology upgrades, $48,753 for Toro Park School, which will go towards the completion of the playground project, new picnic tables, and discretionary funds for assemblies and other school activities. There was $24,840 for Washington Union to support the Gold Rush trip, the Lunchtime Art Club, new picnic tables there, and discretionary funds for them, and $14,442 for San Bonancho for a Flex Farm hydroponic growing system, technology class supplies, science lab materials, and discretionary funds as well. They also awarded $3,720 in teacher grants. And lastly, Star has established a special account for teacher classroom supplies, and to date has provided $1,375 for teachers. So I just hope that everybody here will join me in thanking. Shirley Brilliant, our president, board members Andrea Massey, Maddie Beck, Justin Estati. Thank you for all you do. Much appreciated. Oh, okay, sorry. Angela Mueller, anybody else?
Can I second that a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know we've merged, but it's like that's always set us apart, and it really creates like a synergy with the parents and parent support. We can't ever lose it. We're the most underfunded. I think everyone's known that for a long time, and we couldn't do it without that support. We have former students. I know your dad, right? So it's like, he and I went to high school together, but it's like all this continued support is really important, and then it creates good vibes for everybody in the community, and it gets us all on the same page. And then the added benefit is the funding. So, I think the more important is the teamwork and the camaraderie. So I just appreciate all your volunteer time because it's hard, right? But what else are you going to put you're not going to have a better thing to put your time to than your kids in the school. So I appreciate it. I just want to do a kicker. Yeah.
All right, moving on to organization updates. This is an opportunity for board members or staff to make a brief announcement or make a brief report on his or her own activities. So we can start with you.
With me. I attended our board retreat. I've been looking at numbers, and I've been reading all the great input we're getting regarding these committees and the financial analysis. If we go community funded, really, I totally appreciate it. There's some spot on accounting stuff. I am a numbers nerd. I'm a general contractor background, so I have to manage my own budgets, and there's some spot on comments out there. I really appreciate that. We're getting a lot of good input. We'll take whatever you got because it all matters. And so I do appreciate all the input.
I attended the board retreat. And superintendent's coffee. It was quite good. And I second what John was saying about all the letters that we've been getting. Really great.
In addition to reading all those things, attended the board retreat last week.
I also attended the board retreat. I wasn't here last month, but I think before that I was I've done all the school site visits. Actually, it's probably time to do them again. I attended various meetings that the community's had, not necessarily as a board member, but as a parent and a community member. And I attended a meeting over at Spreckles with Gina and Gerardo, with their superintendent. And again, reading all the emails, they're always welcome.
So Gerardo and I have been hosting the auditor for the last couple of days for our annual audit. We had our first meeting of the Committee on Community Funding last week. We hosted the superintendent's coffee. We attended the Star Foundation meeting. We held our annual board retreat. I attended a meeting of the Safe and Healthy Schools and Communities Coalition. Gerardo and Sarah and I went and met with the leadership at Spreckles. We attended the public hearing on the proposed territory transfer, as well as meeting with Christy White, who's the certified public accountant who's in charge of the feasibility study that's connected to that. I attended a monthly meeting of Salina superintendents, and then I also attended the monthly meeting of the Monterey County Office of Education's Monterey County Superintendent's Council.
I went to both territory transfer hearings. We had suicide prevention training for the students at San Bernardino, new custodian interviews, new aid interviews, which may not pan out. C2B training, which is infants to 3 years old, which is when we take them over as a school district for special education. We had a training for that MPOC hosted, which was great. We went to Authors and Ideas Festival, students did at San Bernardino. We had student-led conferences, which were awesome. I talked to some of you guys about that. I thought that was a great thing for us. Some of our teachers are here. It was great to see our students take part in that. I went to superintendent's coffee. I attended the committee meeting. And then we had trauma-informed teaching training from MCBH. And then I attended the board retreat.
Up at Washington, we have art club, which is going really well. We also are going to have an animal club starting soon. We have our nature trail / hiking club going on. The other day was our first day. We celebrated District Art Day, which was lovely. We also had parent-teacher conferences. To celebrate the first day of fall, we had a hot chocolate sales and a pumpkin spice sale. We raised about $405. We had a great spirit week. Volleyball is starting up at school. Thank you to all the coaches who are volunteering. First tee started at Washington and Toro. Art docent started. Students are making collages this month. We had a pizza day. And lastly, we had our movie night. We had about 100 people show up. And I just want to give a shout out, Mr. J and Ms. Roggio. I told them my dream and they just went above and beyond. It was so fun. So, and the last thing that was really nice about movie night is there was not one piece of trash left, and that was very impressive. And so we made $1,400.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. What was your movie, Lily?
Shrek.
Okay.
Yeah.
At Toro, we had a visit from the mobile dairy. Our TK patio looks amazing. If you haven't stopped by to take a look, and a huge thank you to parents and family members, community members for making that happen. They have a nice little track now for their trikes and tons of activities on the patio and appropriately sized tables for them to eat at, so they're not, up like that. Our second grade got a chance to go to the PG Natural History Museum. Third grade's getting ready to go to Elkhorn Slough. Our new lunch tables have been delivered and are ready to be assembled, so that's very exciting. We conducted interviews. We have a new computer lab instructional aid and a general education instructional aid, and we're still in the process of interviewing and hiring a student support specialist. We'll get that wrapped up as soon as possible. We had conferences. We're getting ready for Mr. Eco, who's going to visit on the 20th. Very excited about that. And I had a chance to attend a couple of AXA professional developments on artificial intelligence, AI Rising. So they have a series that they're going through, just kind of helping administrators plan for that tool and how to frame policy and all that. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, we met with Tina for the superintendent advisory committee early on, and I think we have another meeting next week. I attended the committee meeting, and the 23rd, Heather and I and Bree will attend a Central Coast Service Council training on how to read finances and better understand school budgets.
Have fun.
Let's see, so since the beginning of the year, we've had several new classified hires, which has been pretty amazing. And we continue to do interviews. I'm pretty excited that we've had somebody from our unit in all these interviews. That's kind of important to us. We met as our very first Washington chapter of 798 a couple weeks ago, which is amazing. That's historical. We've filled all 4 positions, which is great. We had some great volunteers step up. Waiting for our tax ID number. We're meeting the 3rd Tuesday of every month at Toro. And our first objective is to meet with every single school site and all entities and see how they're doing. Check their wellness, everything else. So, okay.
Good. Thank you. All right. All right. Community input. Members of the audience are welcome to address the Board of Trustees at this time regarding items not listed on the agenda. The trustees may ask questions for clarity, but cannot take action on these matters. Such matters may be placed on a future agenda according to the law. And the time limit is 3 minutes for each speaker.
Okay. Yeah, we have 2 public comments. First up, Adri Crawford speaking in favor of community funding.
Good evening. My name is Adri Crawford, and I'm a proud in-district parent with the 2 children attending Washington Union schools. I also grew up in the district and attended K-8 here at Washington Union. I want to thank the board and community for allowing me the opportunity to share my perspective tonight. We've heard concerns raised by families who do not live within our district boundaries, but as someone who deliberately chose to live here because of the schools, I feel strongly that in-district families must also have a clear voice in this process. For many of us, the schools are the #1 reason we've made significant sacrifices to buy or rent homes within district lines. That investment, financial and personal, reflects how much we value both the stability and long-term success of Washington Union School District. I was also a driving member of our Measure P school bond that unfortunately did not pass the ballot, not only once, but twice. I've seen firsthand the financial impact and opportunities that our school district so desperately needs. The issue before us is not about reducing children to numbers on a page. It's about ensuring our district remains financially strong and sustainable for decades to come. Community funded status is not a quick fix. It's the most viable long-term option to guarantee quality education for the students who live here. By relying on stable property tax revenue rather than volatile state funding, we can maintain smaller class sizes, protect programs, and attract and retain the very best teachers. It is important to recognize that inter-district families have been welcome here, and their contributions are very much appreciated. But we cannot overlook the reality. When nearly 40% of our student body comes from outside boundaries, the financial equation changes. The families who live and pay property taxes in this district deserve the reassurance that the schools they invested in will remain strong, not just this year, but for the future. This is not about excluding anyone. It's about protecting the core mission of our schools and ensuring that the children who live within this community have the resources they need. Families who live here made that choice precisely because of these schools. Their voices and the long-term health of the district should guide this decision. I urge the board to consider community-funded status not as a loss, but as an opportunity, a chance to stabilize and strengthen the Washington Union School District for generations to come. Thank you.
Great. Next up is Ryan Elliott speaking about Basic Aid.
Hi, good evening. Thanks everybody for having me here. It's a pleasure to be speaking in front of you. I've got 2 daughters in the district. I live right up the street on San Venancio. I'm speaking out in favor of community funding. Some background here. I spent the last 20 so odd years working for investment banks and consulting firms, specializing in financial projections, going through balance sheets, basically predicting what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Gina was kind enough to let me, quickly and briefly go through, kind of the projections we have, and it's not looking very good. We're kind of in dire straits, and if we don't make a change in the next couple of years, then we're going to be headed towards state receivership, from what I can tell. And if that does happen, then that's going to be awful for the students, it's going to be awful for the teachers, it's going to be awful for the staff, and it's going to be most importantly awful for our kids. So, then we're not going to be making any decisions for ourselves. We're going to get cuts that, we don't agree with, possibly, who knows, it's just completely out of our hands. So I think that's, really worst case scenario that we really can't, we've got to take drastic measures now before that we head towards that point. So, that's the majority reason why I'm in favor of it. And also, just for me, paying fairly high property taxes in the district, I'd like to know that those property taxes are going towards something, towards the schools, which right now, with the lowest funded school in the whole Monterey County, and I'm not seeing that. We lack even basic services like police. So it would be really nice to know that the significant property taxes I pay are headed towards my children, and the most important thing that I pay property taxes for. So short and sweet, but that's really why I feel strongly about it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we also had 3 letters that were submitted. So I will read up to 3 minutes of each letter. So the first letter is from Kathleen Guerrero. Urgent plea to keep my 5th grade interdistrict transfer student enrolled. Focus on stability, not displacement. Dear WUSD school board members, my name is Kathleen Guerrero, and I'm writing to you today as the parent of a wonderful 5th grade student who entered a WUSD school this year as an interdistrict transfer. Her name is Evangeline Guerrero, and she is in Mrs. Silva's class. I understand the discussion around interdistrict transfers is critical right now, especially as the district navigates the path toward potential basic aid funding, and I appreciate the difficult financial decisions before you. However, as you and the funding committee consider recommendations this fall, I urge you to look beyond the average daily attendance numbers and see the real impact of these decisions on our children. My daughter has just found her footing in her new school this year. After a period of transition, she is thriving, building strong friendships, and finally feeling settled in her academic environment. She has joined the student council, and she plays on the school volleyball team. We have donated money to the Star Foundation, and we are actively engaged in school activities and events to help build community. After her first week of school, I asked her, "Do you like your new school?" She replied, "It's perfect." To be displaced again after just a few months, that she must leave the community she has only just entered would be a devastating blow to her educational and emotional well-being while she is at a critical age of identity formation. WUSD is an excellent district, and we are deeply committed to remaining here. We feel like we have finally found our home. Our enrollment decision was made with the expectation of stability and continuity, and we are not looking to uproot her again. I respectfully ask the board to consider the following points as you develop your transfer policies. 1, prioritize stability. For families like mine, every decision is about providing a stable educational home. We are asking to be allowed to stay and become long-term invested members of the Washington Union School District community. 2, focus on the child. I understand that denying transfers is a mechanism to reduce ADA and potentially shift funding models. However, the true cost of this strategy is paid by children like my daughter, whose community and learning environment would be needlessly disrupted. Please consider my family's situation. Our desire is simple: to keep our 5th grader in the WUSD school where she belongs. We are fully engaged, supportive parents who want to contribute positively to the district, regardless of the ultimate funding model. Please allow the current interdistrict transfer students to remain in the school district until completion of 8th grade to cause the least possible harm to their well-being. I would be grateful if you would consider my letter when you make your decision about the children's future. Thank you for your time, your commitment to the district, and for weighing the human impact of your financial decisions. The next letter is from Tana and Andrew Heidemann. Dear members of the board, I'm writing to express my support for prioritizing community-based funding over reliance on the state's local control funding formula. While local control funding formula was created to bring equity across California schools, it does not always reflect the specific realities of a district like Washington Union. Our community has consistently demonstrated a willingness to invest in its schools, and I believe local support is the most reliable way to preserve the quality of education we value. One of the ongoing challenges our district faces is the reliance on inter-district transfer students. When these students leave, our enrollment numbers and therefore our state funding decline. This creates an unstable foundation for planning and staffing. Community-based funding, on the other hand, allows us to sustain programs without depending so heavily on fluctuating transfer numbers. By focusing on supporting a more manageable number of students who live within our district boundaries, we can ensure resources are concentrated on the children and families who are directly part of our community. This approach builds stability, strengthens neighborhood connections, and keeps decision-making closer to home. Additionally, strengthening community funding creates the capacity to increase teacher salaries and benefits. Competitive compensation is essential to recruit and retain outstanding educators, reduce turnover, and ensure consistency in the classroom. When we invest in our teachers, we invest directly in student success and the long-term strength of the district. Community funding may also allow for a restructuring of administrative staff. Currently, administrative staff have two distinct and time-consuming roles. As a previous employee of Toro Park Elementary, I can tell you firsthand how that feels. I left to seek employment in a district not only with higher pay, but an administrator that could actually guide the school as a principal alone, especially in regards to the principal/special education director role. I feel it is time to make a change. A special education director is a full-time position, and combining it with a principal role means most likely the principal availability is greatly decreased. Increased community funding would also allow the district to cover basic needs that are too often left to be funded by STAR contributions. This organization already goes above and beyond in supporting enrichment programs and extracurricular activities, but essential classroom and campus needs should be sustainably funded at the district level. Using parent and community donations for items such as internet safety programs for the computer lab and picnic tables for students to eat at is actually quite embarrassing. Parents should not have to provide money to the district in order for their child to safely access the internet or a splinter-free sturdy table for eating. If these types of purchases continue, I do believe parents need to be transparently informed that their STAR contributions will be actually going towards student safety. I know that a reasonable amount of money is usually given to the district to use at their discretion, but some of these purchases should be taken care of through district, site, or curriculum funds. Community funding may possibly help offset this reliance on parent contributions for basic needs. Community funding offers accountability, transparency, and flexibility.
Wow, that was good timing.
Well, there was more.
Yeah.
Okay. Last letter is from Nancy Belton. Dear Washington Union School Board, it has come to my attention that our school district is at an important crossroads, and I am compelled to present a perspective you might not hear otherwise. My name is Nancy Belton, and our family has lived in this school district since 1982. My husband Rod and I came from Southern California to this unknown part of the state with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. We had no local support group, and our primary goal was to make sure our daughters got to grow and learn within the best school district we could find. We did our research, and Washington Union was a star. The district did not provide any reference material as I requested, but suggested that we come in personally and ask any questions we might have. I was impressed by an open willingness to take on all concerns from an unknown potential member of the community. That engaging discussion and the condition of the buildings and buses made me believe that this district was well managed and well maintained and would provide the care and learning experience we wanted for our daughters. It took everything we had for us to scrimp together enough to purchase our land and then over time build our house. We were on a shoestring budget, doing much of the work ourselves, and rented in Toro Park while we built. We had to rent within the district to make sure our girls qualified day one to attend our schools. It was a time when the district was neighborhood only and all the attending families lived within the boundaries. We watched our small but strong schools grow over time and enrich our local community. We were here when WOOF was founded and funded the art program. We were here when the district branched out with Time for Me. Our younger daughter was a charter member, and even when old enough to take the bus home, she told me she wanted to continue at Time for Me because that was where she wanted to unwind after school with her friends. Back then, I served on the site committee and engaged in other activities. The schools in the district were a fundamental part of our lives. I witnessed firsthand that everything the district did was well thought out, fiscally responsible, and continued to demonstrate to all of us living here that our choice of location had been the right choice. But nothing is static. Over time, the state and various other circumstances led the district to the first crossroad we experienced as residents. Funding dynamics changed, and it was decided to welcome transfer students. The additional investment supported the high district expectations and expanded the personal awareness of many of our students. The model has been successful for years. However, the landscape is again changing, and once more we are at a crossroads. Just as in the past, we must soul search and give significant thought to what is best for our district and our resident students. We are the lowest funded district from the transfer program, and the financial impact has slowly eroded from a positive to a financial cost. Failure to pass the bond measure this last year puts additional strain on necessary programs and repairs that we as a community so deeply value. Our tax base cannot sustain our current model in the manner we require. Our community needs the board to commit full focus on what is best for our district's children, both today and going forward. You as our board must navigate the hard questions and corresponding decisions that you are now being asked to make. What model provides the most funding per resident student? What model supports the highest level of academic support? What model provides the most enrichment opportunities through music, art, and extracurricular activities? What model provides the most individual attention to student needs by a small classroom size and additional classroom support? And there's more.
Thanks, Jana.
Sure.
You need a drink of water?
Correspondence, that was correspondence read during.
And that's the correspondence. Yes.
Okay. Moving on to discussion information items, enrollment.
Current enrollment is 740 students.
Okay. And moving on to report on district curriculum, activities.
Washington Union School District parent-teacher conferences were held in September. First, he began at Toro Park Elementary School and Washington Union Elementary School. The reading screener training was administered today to our kinder, first, and second grade teachers. The end of trimester is October 31st, and on our next board meeting, I will be presenting our CASP scores.
Thank you. Okay, report on committee. The report on the Committee on Community Funding meeting.
Yeah, so as you recall, back in July, we had a special board meeting and we brought in Brett and Marcy McFadden and to talk about what we were facing. District finances, declining enrollment, and the possibility of becoming a community funded district. So based on Mr. McFadden and Marcy's recommendations, we have developed the Committee on Community Funding. And so we have 12 members. We have the administrative team, we have teacher representatives, a classified unit representative. We have 2 inter-district parents on the committee, 2 in-district parents on the committee, and we have 2 community members. So we had our first meeting on last Wednesday. So we started the meeting out by just reviewing some norms for the group so that we stay focused on the task at hand. And stay committed to the task that we have been assigned. So, just start and end on time, be present and engaged, listen and speak respectfully, always assume positive intent, stay focused, value all perspectives, maintain confidentiality. And what we mean by that is when we go out into the community and share insights from the meeting, not about the people at the meeting. We seek to build consensus, but we understand that there will be differences. And we're committed to action. So we're going to clarify our next steps and responsibilities before adjourning each meeting to ensure progress between the meetings. So I felt we had a really successful meeting. We had some great discussion, great input from all of our members. And we left with some tasks for collecting additional information so that when we come back next time, we're set to go to have another engaging conversation and productive conversation about what we're facing. So we started the meeting by reviewing the mechanism that is the local control funding formula, just to ensure that everybody understands it. I don't think I need to review it in this room. I think we've talked about it a lot. Everybody understands how we are funded under the local control funding formula. Just to review, our supplemental grant is above the base grant. We have about 13% unduplicated students, so we get a little bit of supplemental grant and we get no concentration grant. We've all seen this slide that shows that of 24 school districts in Monterey County, we are number 24 in per pupil funding. We did just an overview of community funding, or what's also called basic aid. It's essentially our local property taxes generate more revenue than what the LCFF formula would provide. So the district gets to keep all of that property tax revenue, even when it exceeds what that LCFF entitlement would be. We receive a little bit of additional state funding. And then just some descriptors, typical community funded districts. The local wealth is measured in property tax revenue, not state allocations, and it's often found in areas such as ours with high property values, but not necessarily large student population. So then we went into some budget discussions, and that was the purpose of the first meeting, was to talk about finances. So this is just an overview of our 25-26 budget that shows our salaries and benefits are about 80% of the budget. That's typical. That is not unusual. The trick is everything else has to come out of that 20%. So in a budget of just over $10 million, $8 million goes to salaries. We have $2 million for everything else. That's contracts and services, books and supplies, everything we need to do to keep the school district running once we get past salaries and benefits. So then this is sort of the picture that gets painted. There are some assumptions that we made in developing this chart, and we'll be clear about the assumptions. This assumption is that with these numbers, we maintain an ADA of about 700. So that takes into account that 3-year averaging, but with some steady enrollment numbers through 29-30. We factored in a 1% salary increase every year. That's modest, but shows the impact of the salary increases. No COLA. No COLA is represented in the salary and benefits side, but I did clarify with Gerardo, the COLA was built into the other numbers. So it just doesn't factor in COLA as part of salaries. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, that's what I thought all along.
Okay, perfect. So using
Can I
these,
make a statement on that? Just
yeah,
because
absolutely.
The governor says he's going to fund it doesn't mean he's going to do it or can afford it.
That's
So
correct.
we have to negotiate our own terms
Yes,
that fit within what we think they're going to give us.
that's correct. So in a year when maybe there's a 3% COLA, we might still only have a 1% salary increase so that we stay under the COLA.
Correct. And that 3% seems like, hey, great, that's 3 extra, but it doesn't translate 3% down to like, oh yes, that works exactly as a
That's
1-to-1 3% for a salary increase.
That's
It's
correct.
confusing, but
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we did was we took a look at what we're proposing or set to receive in revenues year over year, what those proposed expenditures would be, taking into account a 1% salary increase, the step and column adjustments for all of our staff, and then all of the operating expenses. So you can see in this year, which was the budget was already ready, we're going to deficit spend by about $5,000, which is pretty good, pretty close. Once you get into the years out, you start to see that deficit start to increase. Fund balance 01 is the district's general fund. Fund balance 17 is the special reserve for economic uncertainties. We have to maintain, by law, we have to maintain at least a 4% reserve in that fund balance 17. So you can see as these out years start getting bigger and bigger deficit spending, we start to decrease the general fund. The fund balance 17 stays steady because we don't have to dip into it in this scenario until we start to get out to 28, 29. That's where we're deficit spending by about $1 million. Our general fund is gone, and then we're going to dip into that special reserve. So that's kind of the danger zone. Now, we're talking about 4 years out. So in school finance, as the board knows, there's some speculation here, right? There's some guesswork. And when you start building your budget and you can see these kinds of deficit on the years out, you start making decisions as a district. So those are the times when we start looking at what can we do to reduce that deficit. So in this scenario, as a district, we look at the budget and we start making cuts. I mean, that's just, that's the natural progression. So where we are right now, we would have to look at how are we going to cut in order to remain fiscally solvent and to address that deficit spending. So that's where it gets a little bit difficult. So those decisions are going to be painful decisions, right? It might be working with the bargaining units. Instead of a 1%, maybe it's a 0.75 or a 0.5. It might be eliminating positions. It might be eliminating services or contracts. So it's looking at those numbers. And as I said, these are speculative because we don't really know. We're going to make changes on the years out. But the reality is it gets much more difficult to sustain on those years out when we're looking at the revenue numbers and the ongoing expenditures. So we had some discussion about that at the committee. And we're going to do a little bit more work. Some of our homework is, looking at staffing numbers, looking at salaries, looking at what our services are. And so we're going to come back to the next meeting with a deeper analysis and more information for the committee as we continue to discuss that. So then we apply all of that same information and we apply it in a community funded model. Now, what this chart assumes, so just so we're clear, is we assume an immediate phase out. So I'm going to be clear because we're looking at different phase out models and we have that discussion. This assumes an immediate phase out other than at the middle school, right? So when you see these expenditures go down from 10 million to 9 million, from 25-26 to 26-27, that's the staffing reduction that would have to occur if we went to a community funded model right away. But looking at this, you're going to see the revenue stream. Remember on the ADA, we have 3-year averaging that plays in. So some of this is, the 3-year average has to play out while the district's finances get in line between LCFF and community funding. And then there's elimination of students, which is going to impact some of that revenue. But by 27-28, we're fully in community funding. 26-27 is more of a transition year, but you can see the impact to the budget. So the general fund contribution at the end of the year is healthy. We continue to increase our fund balance, and we continue to just build interest on the Fund 17 balance. This is based on a 2% increase in property tax revenues and the same 1% salary increase.
Is that 480 students ultimately by the time 27-28 rolls around, or what is that projection?
That's a little bit under 480. It's about, I think it's 440. Okay. So, just kind of factoring in what potential changes, students who may come back, but some students may leave. There's children of employees that would be granted the opportunity to stay on an interdistrict transfer, which is pretty common in community funded districts. So there's a little bit of wobble and wiggle room in there, but it's about 400. I believe it was built on 440, Joe, or was it 440? I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was our conversation, and that was the driver of the entire evening. And then we spent the rest of the meeting on questions and discussion. So some of the information we're going to come back with for further discussion is, if we're in a situation like this, or we start looking at more positive revenue stream, how are we going to spend our money? And those questions have come up, and they've come up in some of the questions that have been emailed. So no definitives, but when we start looking at those numbers, obviously there's going to be a building of the reserves. In a community funded model, one of the greatest cautions you're going to receive as a district is to make sure you have a healthy reserve, because the property tax is a volatile situation. So it could change from year to year if there's a dip in the market. So you want to make sure that you have enough reserves to fund any sort of economic uncertainty. Beyond that, obviously there would be some negotiations with the bargaining units, and we would look at salary increases. There would be additional academic resources. So what that would look like, I would hope as superintendent, would be dependent on engagement with our stakeholders. What does the staff think would benefit our district as a whole in terms of improving conditions, making sure that we're providing as much as we can for kids? So whether it's some intervention specialists, perhaps some instructional aides, additional academic resources to provide enrichment. So there's some possibilities there. And then we would look at our facilities needs. we've got projects all over the place. If anybody's been in the district, we've got some projects that we've been able to tackle. We've got some projects that are still laying out there. And so we would look at what our facilities needs are and start trying to tackle some of those projects bit by bit. So that's just a brief overview, but that's some of the information we're going to start talking about at the next meeting. And that was about it. So that was our first meeting. We come back in November, and we're going to come back with our homework and start and continue the conversations.
Can you just do a quick summary on what the committee's goals are?
Yeah. So the committee's goal is to look at all of this information and have these discussions, look at different models for potentially phasing out the interdistrict enrollment. And so the committee's major goal, primary goal, is to come to you in December with a recommendation for how to proceed in terms of whether or not to move forward with a community funding model and the preferred phase out, if that's the recommendation. We were very clear. The task of the committee is not to make the decision. The task of the committee is to build a recommendation that will come to you, and you have the heavy lifting of making a decision. Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to acknowledge something too. So I appreciate all the volunteers. We had a ton of people wanting to be on the committee.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what we identified, it can't be huge. I was like, hey, let's have it too big, but obviously I'm not very smart, and so I don't like it to be 12. So thanks to everybody that wanted to volunteer.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of interest in it.
Yeah.
We based the building of the committee was based on the recommendations of Brett and Marcy McFadden and discussions with them.
Yeah, and then I just want to thank the staff because y'all have regular jobs to do, and everybody is paralleling this added data. So please put on your patience hat whenever we're corresponding or asking, because every one of these staff members are working extra hard to do a whole separate task. And there's a lot of data and number crunching, so just please keep that in mind as we're moving forward, because we're adding to their workload. And I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that and then consider that.
Thank you.
Real quick, one more thing.
Yeah.
Obviously quite emotional for some people. And
sure, absolutely.
To consider it. How was the tone? Everybody was working well together, and
the tone of the meeting was very respectful. We had, like I said, we had great conversation. It's a really hard subject, and there's a lot of questions out there. And so the goal of the committee is to, bring questions, answer questions that we're getting from from everybody else in the community as we share information, and really go through it all and try to have respectful, balanced discussions about what the information is telling us and how we need to move forward.
That could be happening.
Moving on to action items, approval of board policies.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay.
I don't know. I like the summaries now.
they're pretty straightforward.
They are.
I had one question for Joe. Did you see about the letting of contracts for IT services and such?
I did not.
Okay, just look at that, because it talks about, competitive bid process that you'd see more like if you were building a building or had a project. So just look at that, and if we have to shift gears on that process for support, just be aware.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Do we want to table that before we come back?
It's up to you.
Is that something?
If you want to pull the contracts policy and table it, we can.
Just to see if there's going to be any conflicts with that before we actually vote on it.
Let me pull
I
up
remember
the
reading
title.
it didn't occur to me that.
Contract management and oversight. Anyway, it's specifically going into some IT zones, so let's just table that one for now. We'll bring it back. It's item 3.
What was the policy number, John?
Let me go to the
3312.
3312. Yeah. Okay. So
I would just take a look at it and change how you let some of your agreements.
Did we do the AR as well, or was it just?
So you got plenty to do in between time.
No, it's just
Okay, it's just policy.
We need a spare time.
All right, so a motion to.
So John, can you make that motion
Yeah,
or someone make a motion with that edit, please?
I will when I get back to my notes.
Policy 3312.
Let's go ahead and pull on the contract management policy. It's 3312, and we'll bring it back. But other than that, I'll leave it at that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second to make.
Yeah, I moved to pull that. Yes.
Well, you want to approve it
Accept
and
that.
with bringing 3312 back as a second reading.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you for the
Uh,
clarification.
moving on to K, second reading?
No.
Yep, okay. And moving on to consent agenda.
So I did want to note in the consent agenda, last month's minutes, printed with, they printed a little wonky.
A glitch.
That's the technical term.
Yeah.
But there's some added verbiage that came through our program. So if you would like to pull those minutes, we can pull them and clean them
Let's
up.
go ahead and pull them and clean it up. I don't have it right in front. but
Yeah.
Let's pull that section that printed incorrectly.
So I have a motion from John. John, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. I'm good with that.
And a second.
I'll second it again.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And do I need to him for the more over again? And we'll just make
So
that
we approved it
with a
without the
change.
minutes.
Okay.
And I'll bring the
moving-
minutes back.
Moving on to future meeting dates, November 12th and December 10th.
Don't we have enough? Do we have 2 in December?
Not yet.
No,
May.
not yet, but we may. If you want to do an extra meeting to consider the recommendation before making a final decision.
I would like to suggest that. I think if we can have the committee present and then we don't necessarily have to make a decision that night. We could.
Correct.
I think it would be better to potentially add a special board meeting.
So do you want the recommendation at the December 10th meeting and then we'll schedule a special meeting after for you to make the decision? Or do you want a special meeting before the 10th to get the recommendation and then we'll meet on the 10th to make a decision?
Is there anything?
The committee meets on the 3rd.
So that's a.
Well, we can
do
just
it.
do it Thursday.
Yeah, so that's the 3rd is,
Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday. So do you do a special board meeting before? Is that trying to crunch it too quick? Will they be ready to report out like on the 5th or earlier in the
We
week?
should have the recommendation on the 3rd.
That will be their making.
We'll meet on the 3rd and formulate the recommendation and then there will be a
Then you gotta type it up.
issue a written. So maybe a couple days for that.
Yeah, I'll be flexible, but like we need to meet the Monday before the 10th or the Tuesday even. I don't know. How much time does it need to gel?
I think we should give time for
Yeah.
people to think about it, to listen to what the committees presented in our board meeting to us, give time for public comment, give time for us to think about it,
So potentially December 17th, and then that's right
About a
before,
week is appropriate.
right before the holiday. And our last day of school is what?
19th,
Everybody-
18th.
So like the day before. Okay,
Hopefully they're still around.
all right. Well, anyway, we
So
still have time to
special on the
decide.
17th is what you're suggesting.
Yeah. Let's,
I think that's fair. We're gonna need some time.
okay.
Once that recommendation comes in, and I think
Okay.
the recommendation at the board meeting, and then,
Yeah, why rush it?
I don't want it.
So let's give us some time. We can change that date. I just want to make sure we're talking about it.
So the committee meeting is December 3rd. What about the November one? We'll be here from you again on November 12th about.
You will.
Great, thank you. Thank them for all their work too.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, second.
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
That's it.